Allah Ta'ala, we continue the Tafseer of Surat Al-Jinn, and I'm a little less than a page, but the bulk of what I wanted to talk about regarding the surah I've talked about already, so I'm not going to go back and repeat any of the rants that I went on over the last number of weeks. What's left of the surah is actually very lovely, as the whole surah is, but there's a little something that I'm going to try and kind of point out to you, and you'll find inshallah beneficial and beautiful. What it does, what Surat Al-Jinn is doing, is just telling us the experience of Al-Jinn, which I think is absolutely fascinating. We get to hear their experience hearing the Prophet ﷺ reciting the Quran. That's how they received da'wah. They received da'wah in an indirect manner. The Prophet ﷺ did not even know they were listening. He was just praying his Qiyam al-Layl in one of the most difficult nights of his entire life, if not the most difficult night of his entire life, on his way back from Al-Ta'if. And they استمع نفر من الجن فقالوا, and then they start, and we get to hear in the Quran their testimony, or their recollection of this incident, and then what it did for them, kind of how it affected them. And it's really interesting to hear them speak, because we don't know much about them. But there's things we can learn about this group of individuals, or these creatures. They are partners for us. They see us, we don't see them. But we are partners Yawm al-Qiyamah in terms of accountability. And hearing them speak is important. إِنَّا سَمِعْنَا قُرْآنًا عَجَبًا يَهْدِي إِلَى الرُّشْدِ فَآمَنَّا بِهِ. So they start saying, we heard a book, a Quran, that is absolutely amazing. It calls and guides to only that which is beneficial to those who follow it. So we believed it, we accepted it, and we will never ever associate anyone else with our Lord. And indeed our Lord is exalted. He does not have a wife or child. And our imbecile, Safihuna, Shaitan Iblis, what he said about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wrong. He taught us a bunch of wrong things because he had an agenda and he wanted us to follow him, and we know that now. And then they start saying, okay, how things were before for them, like why it is that they were misguided. So they begin, وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَلَّن تَقُولَ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِيبًا. We didn't think that anyone would dare lie in the name of God. We didn't think it was possible that anyone would be so reckless that they would lie in the name of Allah, as Iblis did. Another reason, وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. And there were a lot of human beings who would continuously seek refuge in us. And it made us think that we were actually capable, that we had more power than we did, and that we had more status than we did. It was the human beings affected jinn negatively too. This ongoing superstition that we have, and we keep on seeking them out, making them feel that they actually have something to offer us. فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. And this made both parties more lost than they need to be. وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَن لَّن يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا. And that they, just like the human beings, thought that Allah would never resurrect anybody. That there would be no resurrection. These are the reasons the jinn are explaining why they were lost before they heard the Quran, what it was that was going on. Why were they misled? And then they speak about the change of reality. وَأَنَّا لَمَسْنَا السَّمَاءَ فَوَجَدْنَاهَا مُلِئَتْ حَرَسًا شَدِيدًا وَشُهُبًا وَأَنَّا كُنَّا نَقْعُدُ مِنْهَا مَقَاعِدَ لِلسَّمْعِ فَمَنْ يَسْتَمِعِ الْآنَ يَجِدْ لَهُ شِهَابًا رَصَدًا. And when we went to the sky after this, we found that things changed. The sky was full now, filled with haras, guards, rigid guards, وَشُهُبًا, and falling stars. And we used to sit. There used to be places, stations where you could sit and listen to what the malaika were talking about. We can't sit there anymore. فَمَنْ يَسْتَمِعِ الْآنَ, anyone who goes and tries to listen or sit there will immediately be taken out. يَجِدْ لَهُ شِهَابًا رَصَدًا. They're pointing out that things changed for us. Not only did we, and this is why we were like this before, and this is how they heard the Quran. This is what they heard. They said, this is what we heard. The Quran is beautiful. It changed our minds. Now we don't perform shirk anymore. And what Shaitan Iblis was telling us before is wrong. Here's why we used to follow him. We used to think that no one would lie in the name of God. A lot of human beings would seek refuge in us, so we thought maybe we had something to offer here. We got led along, and we didn't think there would be resurrection. We thought it was all, you lived, you died, and that was the end of it. And then they start pointing out their new reality. Now we go to the sky, we can't sit anymore. We can't listen. We can't gather any form of information. وَأَنَّا لَا نَدْرِي, and we don't know. أشر أريد بمن في الأرض أم أراد بهم ربهم رشدا. We have no information. We don't know the future. We don't know if evil is what people on this planet are destined to, or if they're going to find benefit at the end. We don't know. We don't know anything. وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنَّا دُونَ ذَلِكَ. And we have always been this way. Some of us have been salihun, and some of us have been something else. كُنَّا طَرَائِقَ قِدَدًا. Before, we were just different routes and different ways and different cultures and different belief systems. We were everything, all over the place. وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَن لَّن نُعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. But we all kind of knew, but in our back, we assumed that we could not beat God. Like, they're different. They don't have ilhad. They don't have atheism. Jinn don't struggle with belief in the existence of God. That's easy for them. For them, it's more the attributes of God. Is He one? Is He more? Is He all powerful, almighty, or is He not? That's what. وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَن لَّن نُعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And we kind of knew or thought that no one could outsmart or outrun or beat God. وَلَن نُعْجِزَهُ هَرَبًا. And we couldn't also escape Him or escape His potency. وَأَنَّا لَمَّا سَمِعْنَا الْهُدَى آمَنَّا بِهِ. And then after, when we heard huda, when we heard guidance, when we heard the Quran, آمَنَّا بِهِ, we accepted it. فَمَنْ يُؤْمِنْ بِرَبِّهِ فَلَا يَخَافُ بَخْسًا وَلَا رَهَقًا. So this is Jinn telling us just how things were before, right? This is how things worked. We didn't think anyone would lie. People made us feel we had abilities. We didn't think there was resurrection. We used to be able to sit and listen to the malaika and get information. We can't do it anymore, but we used to be able to do that. We don't really know anything about the future. Some of us are good people. Some of us aren't. We're all over the place. We kind of knew in our back of our minds that we could never beat God or outrun Him, but we didn't have clarity on the matter. And then when we heard guidance, when we heard the Quran, آمَنَّا بِهِ, we accepted it. فَمَنْ يُؤْمِنْ بِرَبِّهِ. The one who believes in their Lord, فَلَا يَخَافُ بَخْسًا وَلَا رَهَقًا. Should not fear bakhs, which is to be cheated out of your right, meaning you won't be given less than you deserve. وَلَا رَهَقًا. And you won't be in a state of ongoing humiliation either. وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ وَمِنَ الْقَاسِطُونَ. And after we heard the huda, now is different. Now we're no longer salihun duna dhalik. Some of us are good, some of us no. Now we're either Muslim or not. Somehow they have a different system of disseminating information. Like for me, it's about getting the information to the person so they can learn about the Quran. For them, no, that happens immediately. All the jinn now know about the Quran. They have to choose whether they're going to follow or not. So it's a different system for them. So now, after the Quran has reached them, مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ, some of us who accepted, وَمِنَ الْقَاسِطُونَ, some of us who have decided not to. Some of us who decided to stay with Iblis. Iblis came to the jinn and he has an agenda for them. I was mistreated. Our race was disgraced by the presence of Adam, and Allah has favored Adam unfairly, and we have to prove that that's Iblis' narrative. So some of the jinn follow Iblis, and some of the jinn listen to the Quran and say, no, Iblis is full of it. Iblis has been lying to us this whole time. فَمَنْ أَسْلَمَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ تَحَرَّوْا رَشَدًا. Those who accept Islam or submit are the ones who are following that which will be beneficial for them in this life and the hereafter. وَأَمَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ. And those who refuse, the unfair ones, the ones who continue to stand by this unfair narrative of Iblis, فَكَانُوا لِجَهَنَّمَ حَطَبًا. They're the ones who will be the fuel for Jahannam. That's where we stopped last time. There are two more verses that talk about jinn, that are more or less the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about jinn. And then we go back to what the Prophet ﷺ was told to say. So you have to understand how the surah works. The surah begins by Allah saying, قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ أَنَّهُ اسْتَمَعَ نَفَرٌ مِنَ الْجِنِّ. Say, it has been revealed to me that some of the jinn have listened to what I have to say. That's the first thing the Prophet ﷺ is going to say. Everything after that we read up so far is just commentary on that one thing that the jinn heard, and then this is what the jinn said, right? So the Prophet ﷺ is going to deliver some information to us, right? So the first piece of information is that the jinn listened to him reciting, and then here's the testimony of the jinn, which is what we've been reading for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So there's two more verses that comment on the jinn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then we go back to hearing what the Prophet ﷺ was told to say. You kind of go back to we add to the beginning. So what else are you told to say, Ya Rasulullah? 1, 2, there's a few more things. So we kind of leave the realm. It's no longer about jinn anymore. So this is information for you. Surat Al-Jinn, not the whole thing talks about jinn. Just the first page and maybe three lines. Just comment on them or allow us to hear the jinn speak, which I think is really interesting because I don't think we have another example of that. We're getting to hear the testimony or the recollection of the jinn as creatures that we don't run into, and we're never going to be able to hear it elsewhere. And it's interesting to see their experience of listening to the Quran and changing their ways. The beauty of the verses that we recited is that you get to hear how the jinn heard, learned, changed, pointed out how they were before and how they're going to be now. This is it's actually quite beautiful. How the jinn heard the Prophet ﷺ recite. What is it that they learned from him? What is it that they were the way they were before? What are they going to change now? And how it's going to, just like the whole, just mapping it out. And this is the courage that human beings need to have. See, the Quran is supposed to come to you in your life and point out to you as a person where you're going wrong, what you're not doing correctly. That it's an important part of this book for you as a person. If it doesn't do that for you in your life, then you haven't really read it properly yet. The Quran has to, and it will, obviously, if you do what the jinn did, and you read it, and you point out, and you understand, okay, I didn't understand things that way, or I didn't see things that way. But what they do here that's interesting is that they point out how they understood before the Quran, and why. Like they go, here's our reasoning, here's why we were lost, and here's the aspect of our loss. We used to sit in the sky and listen, and some of us were good and some of us were bad, and we didn't really know anything, and we just thought that maybe we could. They're just telling you their raw understanding of life, and how the Quran, when they heard the Quran, no, that all changed. وَلَن نُشْرِكَ بِرَبِّنَا أَحَدًا وَأَنَّهُ تَعَالَى جَدُّ رَبِّنَا مَا اتَّخَذَ صَاحِبَةً وَلَا وَلَدًا. And then they move on. وَلَمَّا سَمِعْنَا الْهُدَى, when we heard guidance, خلاص, we had iman. And from now on, وَأَنَّ مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ وَمِنَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ. Now we're only two sides. Either those who believe in Allah appropriately and do tawheed appropriately and exalt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who continue to feed into the narrative of Iblis and work against the human being. So it's quite interesting, because I don't think we have that experience. Most of us want the Quran to fit us. The Quran is not going to fit you. You're going to change to fit the Quran. It's an important piece. The Quran, you can't people will try and do this, try and take parts of the Quran that fit them, and they'll emphasize those parts, and they'll ignore the rest of it that they don't fully agree with. An important part of learning your deen is that you are the liquid, you're the fluid. You're going to take the shape of the Quran, not the other way around. We're not going to carve the Quran so that it fits your size. You're going to fluidly fit the Quran size. And that's what the jinn did. They listened, they said, okay, we're not like that, by the way. They're hearing the Prophet ﷺ recite in his salah, whatever he's reading from the Quran, they're like, yeah, we don't understand the world that way. That's not our belief system. These aren't our ethics. But this is very good. We're going to take this. And they go on. This is how we were before, and this is why we were like that before, and this is what we're going to be now. And this is perfect. It's a perfect way of kind of looking at things, which is what we require, wallahu alam, in our lives. So the two verses that we're going to read right now are a commentary from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them, and then we move back. I'll explain to you how how the surah kind of maneuvers a little bit. So we'll start ayah number 16. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأن لو استقاموا على الطريقة. So in essence, it's وَأَن لَوْ, but it's not written that way. It's written without the an. So it's وَأَن لَوْ, like the noon is not even there. So you just have to recite as a lam. But just in terms of the essence of the sentence, it's وَأَن and that. Like that's what the whole surah has been. So the jinn are speaking, and they're saying, well, we accepted, and the reason that it was because of this, and that this happened, and that people used to do this, and that we used to, and that, and that. So that's what they're saying. It's like they're adding more and more reasons, or they're adding more and more facts, or factual statements to their narrative. So وَأَن لَوْ اسْتَقَامُوا وَأَن لَوْ اسْتَقَامُوا. It's وَأَن لَوْ, and then the waw is maksur because there's two letters that are silent after it. But the noon is not written, but it's understood to be there from a grammar perspective. لَأَسْقَيْنَاهُمْ مَاءً غَدَقًا. لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. وَمَنْ يُعْرِضْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ رَبِّهِ يسلكه عذابا صعدا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَن لَوْ اسْتَقَامُوا عَلَى الطَّرِيقَةِ, and had they, meaning the qasitun, meaning when the jinn were saying, and minna al-muslimun wa minna al-qasitun, amongst us are the Muslims, amongst us are not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is adding a piece, saying, وَأَن لَوْ اسْتَقَامُوا عَلَى الطَّرِيقَةِ, and that had they istaqamu, yani walked the straight path, or straightened themselves out, ala tariqa, upon the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the most commonly used figure of speech in the Mus'haf regarding living well or living appropriately. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to talk about us living our lives, He uses the concept of istiqamah, either by talking about al-sirat al-mustaqim, or in this example here, ala tariqa, or as-sabil, Allahu yahdi sawa as-sabil, or yahdi, whatever it is, it's always going to, صراط الله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ألا إلى الله تصير الأمور. So you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever He talks about living life, because life is too complex sometimes to describe it via one channel or from one angle. The angle of decisions or choices or ethics or values or principles. So He just uses a term that is much like an umbrella term and a concept that's much more comprehensive, which is walking a straight path. Right? It's not literal, obviously, because literally this makes no sense at all. But figuratively, it's just the concept of living with istiqamah, where you are not corrupt. You're not corrupt. Whatever, because corruption is the word that exists in everything. Corruption can exist in everything. And it can enter every domain. All of these domains that we're thinking about, corruption can enter and can ruin. Istiqamah is just the opposite of that. Istiqamah is just you living life, not accepting being corrupt on any level. Where you are aware, cautious, awake, alert to what corruption is, and you are making sure that you are not falling into it. And that's istiqamah. It is the heart, the beating heart of the soul of our deen. It's the most, there's not, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked to summarize Islam in the hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, what did he say? قال قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم. It's one of the shortest ahadith that we have and one of the most authentic ahadith that we have. When the Prophet ﷺ responds, say آمنت بالله. Say that I accept Allah, I acknowledge Allah, I have belief and love for Allah. ثم استقم. And then start walking the straight path. The Sahaba didn't have questions about this. You think about ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us the straight path. Which one is that one? Like what are we talking about here? Everyone understands this figuratively. Everyone does. There is no one on earth who claimed that as-sirat al-mustaqim is a literal path that we must walk straight and not take a. Everyone knows this is a figure of speech. The problem is that whether you understand what the figure of speech is referring to. That's my struggle sometimes, because we ask for this so much. 17 times a day at least you're asking ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. This is the thing, like if anyone was recording you and sending it to the NSA, which they're probably doing, and they're listening, they're probably saying, what is this, why is this person so interested in this straight path? What is this straight path? You would be seen to be someone who is extremely interested in walking this straight path. Right? If we don't even think about it because we say it just kind of rolls off our tongues. But this is a part of who we are. There's no dua you make more frequently on a day, no matter how much you're in trouble and how much you need it. You won't make it more than you do Surat al-Fatiha as you pray. You can't even pray without. So you're asking for this most because you want to be guided, to be able to make the choices that keep you on the straight path where you are not corrupt. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pointed out here to the jinn. Even those who made the bad choices. وَأَن لَوْ اسْتَقَامُوا عَلَى الطَّرِيقَةِ. Had they walked that straight path, had they straightened themselves out upon the path, على الطريقة, upon the way. The tariqah is a way, right? There's different ways to do things, طرق مختلفة, different ways. The tariqah is a way of life basically. لَأَسْقَيْنَاهُمْ مَاءً غَدَقًا. We would quench their thirst with an abundance of water. Why? Because that's what jinn want. Jinn, differently than you and I, they are made from a smokeless fire. So their antidote, what they look for is water. Something that is specific to them. Like you and I, yes, water is a part of, where 60% of us is water. But For us, that's not the reward that they taught you. If the Quran only promised us water, then people would probably get bored. But for jinn, this is what لَأَسْقَيْنَاهُمْ مَاءً غَدَقًا. They would find all of the abundance of water. Whether that's talking about dunya or akhirah, we don't really know. We don't really know. Most scholars think this is the reward that they are promised يعني يوم القيامة, as the na'im, the pleasure or the leisure that they look forward to. لَأَسْقَيْنَاهُمْ مَاءً غَدَقًا. They just straightened themselves upon the path, even those who made the wrong decision later on. لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. All this that they may be trialed by us. لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. And we trialed them and tested them with all of that which was talked about before. وَمَنْ يُعْرِضْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ رَبِّهِ. And the one who turns away or turns their back to the remembrance of their Lord, يَسْلُكْهُ عَذَابًا صَعَدًا. Will send him down a path of increasingly more difficult punishments. صَعَدًا, meaning it gets worse and worse. يَسْلُكْهُ عَذَابًا صَعَدًا. You'll send him in a path where punishment gets worse and worse and worse as they go along. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commentary for the jinn. What did we learn from this? Extremely important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, just like you, they have to perform istiqamah. Just like you, they are promised a reward that is appropriate to their creation. They are from fire, so their reward is water. You are from the soil of the earth, you have different needs that you look forward to. You want to eat, and you want a spouse, you want a lot of other stuff as well. And just like you, لِنَفْتِنَهُمْ فِيهِ. They are being also trialed and tested like you. Just like you are being tested, they are being tested. And just like you, if they turn their backs on upon the remembrance of their Lord, they will be punished. So these two verses explain to us what they're asked to do, their reward, the nature of their existence, which is the trials and testing, which is what we have, and punishment. These are the four pieces that we have in our lives. We are being tested. We are required to do istiqamah. There is a reward and there's punishment. These are the four things that we have. This is what defines you and I, by the way. What defines me and you, from an Islamic perspective and understanding, the mindset of the deen, is that everything that's happening is a form of trial. It is a test of some sort that you're going through. You are either failing it or passing it, or you're doing well or not too well, depending on how you're responding. That the way you're going to respond is always going to be through istiqamah. Istiqamah is your go-to. You're always going to see, are you falling for corruption? Are you lying to yourself? Are you finding ways around doing the right thing just to get what you want? And you will either be rewarded for your choices or you're going to be punished for them. Is there anything else to the deen? What's left? What's left of Islam? What's left that I need to point out to you that is of great or importance? If I sat here and only talked about these four, then you could never fault me, because I would swear that I never held back any information that you needed to know. Khalas, I told you you are here to be tested. You have to be istiqamah, either reward or punishment. I could just do this every single time and never be faulted, because I didn't miss anything. So that's why we have these two verses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just points out to us, as the jinn are speaking, at the end of the jinn's recollection, testimony, as we got to hear them speak of their experience. And by the way, like you, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are held to a similar standard. Now, obviously there's some differences, because our experience is different than theirs, but in nature, in essence, it's the same thing. And that's why الثقلان, the two weights, or the two heavies, or the two choices that have weight to them, which is الإنس والجن. يا معشر الجن والإنس. Come يوم القيامة, every other creature that we are aware of, that exists within our realm. Allahu A'lam what exists out there. How many accountable creatures there are in different, I don't know. But for us, everything else will come, they're not accountable. Animals are not accountable. Insects, trees and rocks, and children and people. There are a lot of people who are not accountable. But the jinn and the ins are going to be held accountable, because they were tested, they were required to show istiqamah, they were promised reward, and they were warned of punishment. And that is, to me, these two verses are the most, they simplify things beyond any need for. This is as simple as it gets. If something worth. The verses after, now we go back to hearing what the Prophet ﷺ is. So, قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ. First one, أَنَّهُ اسْتَمَعَ نَفَرٌ مِنَ الْجِنِّ. Second one, the verse we're going to read right now. So the Prophet ﷺ is required to say, he's being told, say this. When the Prophet it's a different level of significance, or different form of significance when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet to say something. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I need you, Ya Rasulullah, to deliver this message very clearly to them. I'm going to put it here in the Quran, then I need you to go and to say it to them until they understand it, because it's not something that I'm just talking about in passing. This is something they have to hear. They have to hear this. So that's why the surah is not Huwa Allahu Ahad. Huwa Allahu Ahad, that's the point. He is Allah al-Ahad. No, it's Qul. Because he has to take this alayhi salatu wasalam, he has to drill it in. He has to make sure that everyone fully understands it. And that's why when you find Qul in the Quran being directed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam specifically, it's a degree of, and it is different than when he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or Ya ayyuhan nas. These are all different forms of communication of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to us. When he's generalizing, he's speaking to all humanity, or speaking to the believers specifically, we're hearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you hear the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, Qul to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that means this was one of the main points of da'wah the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had to deliver to the people who were listening. I mean, this was something he had to deliver firsthand, alayhi salatu, make sure that people understood it, because of a degree of importance that's very high. So we'll continue, because there's two more verses, and we go back to something else. You'll understand as we go along. All right. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. وأنه لما قام عبد الله يدعوه كادوا يكونون عليه لبدا. So the second one, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ. So قُلْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, number one, أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ, it has been revealed to me. Number one, أنه استمع نفر من الجن, that a number of jinn listened to me recite the Quran, and then that whole kind of recitation, the whole verses all those verses that we listened to, that we went over together, of the jinn giving their testimony of what happened. Second thing that he is told to say, أوحي إليّ, say that it's been revealed to me, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ, and it's been revealed to me that in masajid, that the places where people perform sujood, or masajid, as in the plural of a masjid, both interpretations are very reasonable. So if you say masjid as in, and you mean by that a place for sujood, or the state of sujood, or masajid as in the plural of a mosque or a masjid, then both are a reasonable interpretation, understanding of the ayah. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ, that masajid should only be, everything in them should be for the sake of Allah. And wherever you perform sujood, you should perform sujood only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. So do not call upon anyone else aside Allah. Don't call anyone else. Don't supplicate anyone else. فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. Make sure there's no shirk in what it is that you're doing. Make sure that when you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during your sujood or in your masjid, that this space is a space where we all become equal. This is what it's supposed to be. Like a masjid is a place where once you walk in, khalas, you're just a musalli, just a Muslim. You stand in line there with a child on your left and a younger person on your right, or an old man, it doesn't matter. Your status and your ethnicity and your wealth and your age, when you come to the masjid, it doesn't matter anymore. All of that is left outside. You don't come in here. At least masajid should not have that within them. Because the masajid lillah, they are for Allah. So within them, we only seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. We only call upon Him, and we only turn to Him, and we are here to serve Him subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that pleases Him. So this is what these masajid, the beauty of these places, that they're supposed to bring equality within the community. Allow everyone, it's helpful for the weak to feel a little bit more appreciated, and the strong to be humbled a bit when they come here. That's what's supposed to happen. Masajid cannot be seen as anything else. And they cannot be treated as anything else. And there cannot be any form of secondary gain for anyone who is coming into it. It's very important. It's important for us who run masajid to know this. It's also important for you when you come to the masjid to understand that you can't come to the masjid hoping to gain stuff. Like to walk away with with financial, personal benefit somehow. Sometimes people say at the masjid, the masjid is not helping us. How do you want the masjid to help you? Find a job and get a business. Why? Why would the masjid do that? Why do you feel so entitled that the masjid should fix all of your problems for you? Where did this come from? The degree of entitlement that exists in our Muslim community needs an old hajji, old lady with a adib rumman, with a asa, with a stick, to go, wallahi, the level of entitlement in masajid, where people, Muhammad, we started this place because I believe masajid should be lillah, where you come here and you are served and you are taken care of and you feel equality with everyone around you and you find that beauty of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why I believe masajid should be. But what I found out as I did this, the more I do this, is that there's a very deeply rooted sense of entitlement for people when they come to the masjid. They walk in here, they expect that they're going to get what they want or what they need, and that they're entitled to it. And I feel that to be, you come to the masjid, you're looking, what is it that you can do to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You're coming here, you want to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua and in supplication and in invocation. And you're also looking, what can I do to serve Him? How can I it'im miskin, or take care of a yatim, or further his cause, or perform da'wah? That's what you're thinking. For you to come to the masjid expecting to, and it will happen in your life once in a while where you'll be weak, and you'll come to the masjid hoping for support, and you'll find it. But that can't be the default. That can't be the default in people's minds. It's a problem that I don't know how, it's more widespread at least than I thought it was in dealing with our community. So it's a two-way road that has to be fixed. Masajid, the people who run it have to understand what they're there for. These masajid are for the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His people, His congregation, His creation, His ibad, His servants. That's what masajid are, nothing else. I don't even like in masajid when they make, like overseas, they'll make dua for the politicians. No, not in the masjid. Make it, you generalize. May Allah grant tawfiq to those who serve Him. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gut all those who don't. And rid us of the evil of those who have no interest in serving Him, or in serving the Muslims, and serving the causes of those who need them. Because this is a place where only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supplicated. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exalted and magnified and respected and revered. So it has to be like that. And when you come to the masjid, you have to understand this is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should be very weary of using a service in the masjid. You have to think, am I using this service? How am I going to make up for this? Because this is for everybody. You came to a public space and you took time and you took wealth, right? Are you deserving of this? Did you take only what you deserve? Do you take more? Are you going to put something back later on to make sure others get this? Or are you going to take and walk away? I find it happen a lot as well. People show up and they want something, they take it, and then that's the last you'll ever see them. They'll never come back again. They'll come that one time when they need something. They'll take it and they'll leave, right? And not that it bothers me that I'm helping them, not at all, but it just doesn't seem fair. And if you're going to take, you have to give. Where is your give? It's not just money. I know that we talk about it. It's not just giving through money. It's way more than that, by the way. Giving is a bigger concept that I think we have to think about. That's the second piece. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ. So these houses are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these places. No one should be supplicated or invocated aside from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all have to remember that. Every person sitting here, myself, those who work with me, those who come here to benefit, you all, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house. Treat it as such. Treat it with the dignity that it deserves, understanding that. Because if you entered my home, or if I entered your home, there are rules that apply when you enter my house and I enter yours. You've entered the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to treat it that way. And you have to show it this respect it deserves. The third piece, وَأَنَّهُ, and the third thing the Prophet ﷺ was told, لَمَّا قَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ يَدْعُوهُ كَادُوا يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا. When the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, referring to him alayhi salatu wasalam, لَمَّا قَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ يَدْعُوهُ, when he took a stand and he started speaking, يَدْعُوهُ, which is da'wah, right? Which is what this whole juz'ah is about. If you remember, from mulk to, it's all about talking about da'wah. We're going to learn about this piece because the next piece of Surat Al-Jinn gives us some guidelines for da'wah, beautiful guidelines for da'wah. وَأَنَّهُ لَمَّا قَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ يَدْعُوهُ. And once Abdullah, which is the Prophet ﷺ, the servant of Allah, took a stand and performed da'wah, كَادُوا يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا. Everyone around him, they almost started to stack up. تَلَبَّدَ الشَّيْء libad is when something gets stacked on something else, right? So like almost to the point where there's no spaces anymore. So كادوا, they almost يكونون عليه لبدا. They rushed him alayhi salatu wasalam, almost stacking up on top of him to suffocate him. Like they almost, when he started to speak, they almost silenced him just by the sheer numbers of people who came refusing what he was saying. So يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا, it's almost like they silenced him by just stacking up upon him alayhi salatu wasalam, because there was no response to what he was saying. And this is an important piece. Quraysh struggled with how to push back against this narrative he was bringing alayhi salatu wasalam that was superior in every way. Like in every way, it was just mopping the floor with them. Like they couldn't hold a candle to it in any form. Like the beauty of what he was saying, alayhi salatu wasalam, like just the rhythmic beauty that the Quran carried was something that was extremely intriguing to people who were listening to it. The artistry that the Quran carried, the philosophy, the depth of it, the purity of the message, the logic that it was that it put forward, and the reform that it was bringing, and the corruption it was pointing out. Yeah, it was just, they couldn't do much. And no matter how they tried, they would try obviously, but they couldn't do anything about the Quran, so they went after him alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why يَكُونُونَ عَلَيْهِ لِبَدًا. They almost couldn't think of anything, they just threw themselves on him, just trying to silence him by sheer just physical presence. Because he wouldn't slip up, he wouldn't make a mistake. They went after him, they called him sahir, they called him majnoon, they called him whatever they could. That didn't work. People, he said, oh, he's majnoon. They go speak to him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, well, he's not. This guy's not majnoon, you're majnoon. If he's majnoon, then you're majnoon. This guy's, what are you talking about? Sahir, he's not sahir. There's no witchcraft in what he's doing. He's not kahin, sha'ir, he's a poet. They tried to make things up, nothing works, nothing would stick because people just went and got to know him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And then, whatever it is that they accused him of became extremely clear that it wasn't true. So the verses that we have left, قُلْ, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, with some verses in between commentary. He is, alayhi salatu wasalam, since he is the one who qama yad'u, he's the Abdullah who qam yad'u, took a stand for da'wah for him, and people almost suffocated him, and silenced him physically. If they tried, they failed. So, قُلْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, say these four, he gives them 4 statements. These 4 statements serve as guidelines for da'wah. The 4 basic da'wah guidelines, meaning for someone like me or someone, inshallah, like you who wants to perform da'wah, you have to know these 4 verses very clearly. So I'm going to recite them, inshallah. I don't think we'll get through all of them today, but we'll get through as many of them as we can. So we'll start with number 1 and number 2 at least. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَدْعُو رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ أَحَدًا. Number 1, Tawheed. Number 1, exclusively, my da'wah is Tawheed, is the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ad'u Rabbi, I supplicate and I perform da'wah for my Lord. وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ أَحَدًا, and I associate no one with Him. This is the number 1 rule of da'wah. You must perform da'wah for people to know Allah, not to know your sheikh, or your school of thought, or the scholar from whom you've learned. No. Da'wah has to be for the sake of Allah, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's it. And that tawheed has to be extremely clear. Has to be you have to have clarity on that yourself. You have to know the importance of because tawheed is what protects people. Tawheed is what protects us as individuals, as communities. It's having tawheed. Because it tells us who it is that drew the red lines for us. Who it is who made the rules. You have to, if you don't know, if you have rules, if you don't know who made the rules, then you're not going to know to what degree you have to abide by the rules. If you play a game, if you play a sport, there are rules to the sport. Depending on how much you respect the ones who put these rules, you will either adhere to them or you won't. Like, it's up to you. It depends on how you view those who put these rules and whether you're going to stick to these rules or not. You live in a country, there are rules. Depending on how you feel about those who made the rules that run this place, you will either adhere to them or you won't. And that's how life is. In the house, the same thing. A child will grow up and there's a set of rules. Then he'll decide how he feels about these rules and how he feels about the person who put the rules. That's why every once in a while the mom needs the dad to come in, because this child starts to feel, I don't like your rules. The mom's there all day, so he gets used to it. He's like, I don't like your rules. Your rules are... So you need the big elephant to come in and say, nope, these are the rules, and you have to go back to the rules. And then the child gets old enough and tall enough and big enough, and he doesn't even care what the father says, so he doesn't respect the rules at all anymore. Like, it's not, like, it's life, because these are rules, and who put the rules? We're all like that as human beings. We're always testing. What are these rules? You go to work, right? What are the rules? Oh, we start at 8:30, we finish at 4:30 or 5. You try a few times going 8:45, you see if anything happens. Nothing? All right, then you try 9. You try 9:15, because it depends on how you see these rules. You may respect the rules. I like the rule, 8:15, 8:30, good timing. I should be there, no, totally important. After a while, you're there 8:30 every day. It's nothing to do. You feel like this is a stupid rule. Who made this rule? Well, some guy in management who lives in a cloud somewhere in a different country. Well, I don't care about this guy. So you stop. So who is the one who made the rules? Who said that you can't steal, and you can't cheat, and you can't lie, and you can't kill, and you can't deceive, and you can't betray, and you can't perform zina, and you can't drink, and you can't do drugs, and you can't... Who said this? Who made these rules? Who is he? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is he, a CEO of a company? Does he have a bunch of associates? Is he the head of a parliament? He's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's one, the one and the only. No one is close. There is no one like him. There is no one similar to him. He has no associates whatsoever. There is no comparison. There is no similarity between him and any of his creations subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who made the rules. That tawheed is what will save you. Because that tawheed will make you, I'm not going to cross this rule. I won't break this rule. And then any other rule that you don't break in your life, don't break because he told you not to. And that's that's a much better method of living. You don't break other rules because, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he commanded me not to break these rules, not to harm people, not to take money that's haram, not to sign a contract and then not see through my part of the deal. That's what he told me to do. So out of respect and out of reverence to the one who told me, who drew that line in the sand or made that rule, I will adhere. For any government, tawheed is a better way of people behaving well. Like it's way better. Laws don't work. Only if there's a camera on that's the only time you're going to slow down. If there's no camera, you don't care. You're going to go because you don't care. We all have that. We just don't care about the rules or the ones who put the rules. So we're going to but if there's accountability, it's easier if there's some degree of internal accountability that comes from the reverence of Allah and the understanding of tawheed. This is why when you have tawheed, you have constant values and constant ethics and constant principles. They're not variables. They don't change with time. You don't change the rules as you go along. You don't decide that this rule is too difficult now, so I'm going to break it. It's not really a rule if you follow it only when it's easy to follow it. It's a rule. It's only a rule if you're going to follow it in all times, especially when it's difficult. An ethic is only an ethic if you're going to commit to it even when it's really hard to. When it's not within your best interest. You're not generous if you're only generous when you're wealthy. Generosity is an ethic if you're generous all the time, even when you're poor. It's not going to be the same amount of generosity. You're not going to give the same amount of money, I understand that. But you still have to be generous. Like that generosity still has to be there. You're still thinking of others. You're still trying to show some degree of altruism. And you're trying to give That's the whole point of it, is that you will follow this, you will commit to it regardless of whether it's easy to do it or it's hard. That's what tawheed is. Tawheed makes sure that's clear. Here are the ethics. Here are the values. Take them. They were with you at all times. You don't toss them when you don't like them. So that's the first pillar of da'wah. It has to be rooted in tawheed. That is what our deen is built on. It's built on the monotheistic understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's what protects us. It protects our deen. It protects our integrity. It protects us as human beings. If there's no makhafa from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you don't fear Allah, then nothing can stop you. There is no government, there is no amount of people watching over you, or there's just no amount of this that can stop a human being from doing what he wants to do. Except if they truly fear Allah. And this is something that I wouldn't do because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me not to. That is someone you can trust. You can trust people like that. If I have to watch over you, there has to be surveillance all the time, then this is not If you have to surveil people to get them to behave, then that's really, they don't have character. It's about not needing to surveil them because they have developed, they have their own internal surveillance system because they fear Allah, because they know that it's one thing to break that guy's rule. It's another thing to break, they're not the same. This is a human being, that is the Almighty. They're not similar. I can live with the wrath of a person, but I cannot live with the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I break His rule. And that's the first piece. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَدْعُو رَبِّي. I speak, only my Lord. وَلَا أُشْرِكْ. No shirk. There's no shirk. That's fine. Number one. Number two. The second statement. قُلْ إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا. Number two, being very, very clear and honest about what it is that you have to offer in da'wah. It's very important that there are no illusions, there are no lies, that you don't lead people along to think that you have abilities that you don't. The second rule of da'wah when you're doing it, لا أملك لكم ضرا ولا رشدا. I have no abilities that are special to me. I can't intercede on your behalf. I can't speak to the boss for you. I don't have special powers that allow me to relieve pain or remove difficulties or bring forward خير. لا أملك لكم. I own nothing for you. ضرا in terms of difficulties, ولا رشدا or in terms of benefit. Like I can't bring you anything. I have no. This is an important piece because clergy have often, historically, claimed otherwise. Clergy have always claimed otherwise. In Islam, this is an extremely important piece. I sit here only because you have decided that you're okay with me speaking due to a certain degree of information that I possess. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. When someone who's more knowledgeable than me comes along, then I will sit over there and put the person here to speak to us and teach. Because there is nothing else. There's no other criteria. I have nothing at all. And this is something that, it's not a coincidence that Surat Al-Jinn will have this in it, because this is another problem that we have in our community. Another problem where, in both ways, where clergy will claim, right? Again, we just do whatever Yahud and Nasara did before us. As the Prophet ﷺ told us. They did this all the time. You don't know the traveling shows of the Baptist and evangelic and they go around and they tents and the guy comes out and they sing for 5 hours and they bring people who are blind and they now can see and someone who's crippled and now he can stand and all this stuff. They performs all these healing miracles. It's all staged. It's all staged, but it's just a way to sell influence. It's a way to delude people, make them think that you have more, that you're special, that if I bring this person who is sick, your hand on them. That's Rasulullah. That's Rasulullah, and the people are similar to Rasulullah. But when you're performing da'wah, you're not making that claim. Even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a karamah, even if you're someone who was granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a secret, something special, where you make dua and your dua was mustajab at all times. Let's say, even if you're like that, when you perform da'wah, you do not claim that. Anyone who claims that, by the way, is by default a liar. Because anyone who actually has that would never claim it. Like anyone who actually is granted something special by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means this person reached a level of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where he would know better than to actually claim it as they perform da'wah or make it public. So anyone who's making that public and saying, I can do this, I can do that, they're full of it. They're liars just by the fact that they said it. We have that. And then we have people who believe that. Right? The people who believe it. I have it all the time. People coming up. Can you do this? Can you come to the house and recite for this? You don't need to be, here's what you need to recite. No, you come and do it. Why? What do you think I have? What do you think I have? Like a seat at the table upstairs? I have nothing. I'm just like you. There's no difference. People don't like to hear that. It's actually like, well, we thought, no, there's nothing to think. There's no difference. I'm just trying like you are, pushing myself as you are. He's striving and making mistakes and trying to be better, just like everyone else. The difference is just knowledge. Knowledge is just the only thing. Knowledge is not a bragging point, by the way, in Islam. Knowledge is not a bragging point at all. Now, knowledge can work both ways. Knowledge can actually harm you Yawm al-Qiyamah if you come to Allah and you didn't practice it appropriately. So it's not a bragging point in the deen. You only show respect to not to me to knowledge. And if you show me respect, not because of me, not because I'm better, it's just, you're respecting knowledge, it's good for you. That's out of your reverence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You revere the knowledge that He has. And I have to respect myself because of the knowledge. And then you will have some knowledge, you do the same thing. It's very simple, it's not complicated. But clergy historically have behaved differently, and people historically have treated clergy differently. And that has to change. Islamically, this is one of the, so clergy are the ones who do da'wah most of all. So number one, tawheed. Number two, لا أملك لكم ضرا ولا رشدا. I own nothing. I have nothing. I have no advantage. I'm not different in any way. You do not need to do anything. Like there's nothing that I possess that you cannot possess, or that I have that is special, that makes me different. I don't receive anything from above. I can't speak on anyone's behalf up there. I have nothing. And it bothers me sometimes. Someone will come and say, "Ya Shaykh, just on Yawm al-Qiyamah." What Yawm al-Qiyamah? Just make sure you do what? Are you insane? What you think I have? What do you think? You make me laugh. What are you into? You remember me, Yawm al-Qiyamah, I remember you. What do you want me to remember? What do you think I have, Yawm al-Qiyamah? I'm going to have like my own. What is this? Ya Shaykh, we're all hoping Yawm al-Qiyamah that the love for Allah subhanahu that we have will advance us and bring us closer to the Prophet alayhi salatu, allow us to get across. But to imagine, it's one of my shuyukh used to always, like, he was an older gentleman, and people always come and tell him this. Always, like, this is all they said. People wouldn't even, interested in nothing else. Aside from, Ya Shaykh, and he would reply the same way. You remember me. Remember my name. He would tell them my name. Usmi, this is my name. You remember me. I want the ahd. He'll say, we make a deal right now. Yawm al-Qiyamah, you don't move, I don't move until we ask about one another. So people would look at me, yes, you, because who knows? No one knows. Why? No sheikh, no real alim or imam or wali would go ahead and claim, no, I'm good, you're with me. If you run into someone who says that in life, then that's your cue to look for the exit. That's your cue. Look for the exit. Get out. That's not. No one. I've known no person of that status would ever claim anything like that publicly ever, even if they knew things about themselves that no one else did. So that's the second rule of da'wah. Now, first rule da'wah, it has to be based and rooted in tawheed. Don't waste time talking about anything else. Tawheed. Get people to understand La ilaha illallah. Make sure people understand what it means, why La ilaha illallah is important, what it does for them. That's because everything else is peripheral. Everything else is secondary, tertiary, things that can be talked about later. La ilaha illallah is the center. You give someone La ilaha illallah, you save them. They can make a million, you save them if they have that. If they come Yawm al-Qiyamah, at least with that basic understanding. Second one, make sure it's very clear that you are not claiming anything. Even the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. قُلْ لَا أَمْلِكُ لِنَفْسِي نفعا ولا ضرا إلا ما شاء الله ولو كنت أعلم الغيب لاستكثرت من الخير وما مسني السوء إن أنا إلا نذير وبشير لقوم يؤمنون. Say, I own nothing for myself in terms of benefit or harm. And if I knew ghaib, I would only get good things in my life. I would always, if I knew what was going to happen next, I would always maneuver in ways I'd only get what I wanted. I would never have suit. There would be no difficulty for me. All I am is Nadhir, or a warner, Bashir, someone who brings glad tidings. لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ, to people who are willing to believe, or those who have accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this obviously, he's being told to say this, alayhi salatu, so this applies to him. Right? Like what I'm saying to you about clergy, who is being told to say this? قُلْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا. He has to tell people, I own nothing for you. But shafa'ah, I understand. Yeah, but how do you understand shafa'ah? Huh? وَكَمْ مِنْ مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ أَنْ يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَرْضَى. Shafa'ah is only something that is granted with permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ performs shafa'ah to those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him the permission to perform shafa'ah for. He doesn't do anything against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. He doesn't choose someone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him not to perform shafa'ah for. He does, no. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission for the Prophet ﷺ to perform shafa'ah for those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is accepting shafa'ah for. So understand very clearly what it is. And this is whom? This is Muhammad Rasulullah, the highest ranked creature of all time. The most beloved to the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidul Khalq, alayhi salatu wassalam. Sayyidul Bashar. Habib al-Rahman alayhi salatu wasalam. And he is saying, لا أملك لكم ضرا ولا رشدا. I don't own anything for you. If you remember, reading these verses, isn't that what he did at the beginning when he gathered his family? This is literally what he said when he gathered his family. He gathered his family to eat, and before he got to speak the first time around, before he got to speak, Abu Lahab said some very rude things. So he quieted down alayhi salatu wasalam, and he had everyone eat, sent them home, brought them again. He did it again a few weeks later, and this time before, he waited for Abu Lahab to have a full mouth of food, and he stood up and started to speak. And what he said alayhi salatu wasalam was exactly this. And he gave a small introduction of Tawheed, of leaving Asnam, and then he began, Ya Abbas, Ya Amma al-Nabi, أنقذ نفسك من النار فإني لا أغني عنك من الله شيئا. Ya Abbas, O Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, save yourself from the fire. I don't own anything for you, يوم القيامة. Ya Safiya, Ya Ammat al-Nabi, Ya Safiya, his aunt, أنقذي نفسك من النار فإني لا أغني عنك من الله شيئا. And then he would say, Ya Fatimata bint Muhammad, أنقذي سليني من مالي ما شئت أعطيك. Ask me for all of my wealth, I give it to you. I'll give you my life. You're my daughter. Whatever you want. You ask me, I give it to you. Take my eyes. ولكن أنقذي نفسك من النار فإني لا أملك لك من الله شيئا. But save yourself from the fire because I do not own anything for you يوم القيامة. What more? This is how he started his da'wah alayhi salatu wasalam. Starting his da'wah by saying, I don't have any special powers. Don't follow me. No, come to me. I know. I know things. I see things. Come to me. Trust. No, he didn't. Imagine this. Every cult, I'm very interested in this, as I've explained before. I'm fascinated by cults and by the guys who end up being able to run cults. It's just a very interesting psychological, socio-psychological phenomenon. It really is. I spend too much time sometimes reading about this stuff. All of them, what they have in common is that they elude the people in front of them that they have powers. And some of them will say, and some will stage they'll stage certain incidents paid just to convince their followers that they have certain powers so that these followers will be fully committed to them. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam would start his da'wah by saying, I own nothing. I have no special powers at all. You save yourself from the fire because I can't do anything for you. I'm just here to sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And yet he led the largest human societal reform movement of all time, alayhi salatu wasalam, in history. But he started by saying, I have nothing special. You would think, do you have, and they came to him, the Anbiya, we understand, you're saying, but they had, Musa had a stick, Isa walked on water and made resurrect. He did stuff, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, all these people, where's yours? لم أبعث بهذا. This is not what I was sent with. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ was, one of the reasons, in my opinion, he was deprived from a physical miracle was for this. To say that he literally ﷺ did not perform any miracles. He did not have any special powers. He just came as a person with knowledge, with character, and he changed the world with it. Allahu Akbar. Wallahi, it's one of the most interesting things you'll ever come across if you truly study religion, you study human movements. He came out, you would think for him, if he had a physical miracle, it would make sense because he's a prophet. All the prophets did. It would make sense for him to have at least something. Not Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He was going to come without one. All of the prophets before him had one, but not him. Not him. He was not going to have one. And he didn't. And you can say whatever you want. You can say, the moon. These are not miracles. And I've explained this so many times. They're not miracles because he never used them to challenge people. A miracle, a prophet, if he has to use it to challenge people, he has to bring people and say, look, I did this. Musa alayhi salam had the stick. Anytime someone asked him, go ahead, they run. He picks it up again. Anytime. You want the stick, he throws it, turns into a python. He picks it up, or a snake. His hand, he pulls it out, it's light. He puts it back in, it's not light. Every time, anytime they wanted it. Same thing with Isa alayhi salam. They would challenge him, he would do the miracle. Challenge him, do a miracle. Same thing with Salih. All of them. A miracle has to be challenged with. If you don't challenge with it, it's a dalil. It's an evidence of prophecy. As Imam Bayhaqi would call them in his very famous collection of hadith, Dala'ilun Nubuwah. The evidence or the proofs of prophecy. And that's what they were. I don't deny any of them. Blacks, I love those stories. I love reading from that book. Telling about the Prophet ﷺ putting his hand in the well and gushing with water. Performing the ruqya for the ayn of Qatada, and he can see again, putting it back, and all these, but these weren't miracles, because he did not use them to challenge anyone. He didn't claim that he had the ability. He didn't claim, oh, if you're sick, come, I'll put my hand on your belly and you'll be fine. No, all of his loved ones died. All of them. His wife died, and his 2 sons and his 3 out of 4 daughters died during his life, alayhi salatu wasalam. His parents before him, his uncles, his adopted son, all of his cousins that accepted him, his aunts, his friends. He lost all these people, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he never went around saying, nope, I can fix this. No, he never claimed that, alayhi salatu wasalam. Every once in a while there'll be something. Something just for the sake of the hearts of the Sahaba, just to give them a little bit of a special boost to their iman. There's a beauty. قُلْ إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ لَكُمْ ضَرًّا وَلَا رَشَدًا. Second amendment of da'wah is that you have to be clear. I don't possess anything. Nothing at all. Anything that someone possesses with closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that you just have good assumptions in them. And you ask them for dua, and you ask them for something. But I'm going to believe that this person has powers, or for a clergy to claim that they do. Yeah, that's how you start a cult. And we have within the Muslim world, within Islam, cults. Within Islam, we have cults. Oh yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, see, people come all over the world. If you're old enough, you've lived places, you've seen the cults. You've seen the guy, how he says, how he speaks, how he behaves, what he says, and how people look at him. And this is not right. There's something wrong here. Something wrong, because that's not how Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was. He didn't start his da'wah that way. He started his da'wah the opposite, saying, I own nothing. You're my daughter. You're my daughter? Yeah. Whatever I have. I'll take my clothes. I'll give you my, whatever you want. I can't do anything. I have nothing. I don't have a seat up there where I can make decisions or tell, or say, oh, he's with me. No. Only if he allows me. Only if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me the ability. That's what the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had to say. That's how he started his da'wah. So we have to respect that. We have to continue to respect that within our deen. That's the beauty of this deen that we carry. Is that one person dies, someone else comes along. It's all about knowledge. You seek knowledge. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you in a position where you continue to teach. And then others will teach. And it's just an ongoing process of reverence and love and respect and teach and knowledge, and that's it. So that's why we have Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah and other groups. Other groups, they don't like that. So they decide, no, we have imams or sada or whatever. We have people who, they're special. They receive revelation. They can give fatwa without needing to explain the evidence. They can just, papacy. The papacy in Catholicism, is one of the main differences we have with them. We don't have that. We don't have a pope. Some Muslims decided, no, we're going to have something similar to a pope, where this person can't do wrong. They can't be questioned. They can't be questioned. The only one who can't be questioned is La ilaha illallah. That's the only one. The only one you don't question is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone else will be questioned, because everyone else is not God. Everyone else is just people. And those are the 2 first rules. We'll conclude. There's 3 more. So if you look at the 4 verses that have qul at the beginning of them, there's 4 of them. So there's 4 rules, or 4 statements in da'wah. These are the first 2 statements. Number 1, da'wah is always rooted in tawheed. First and foremost, it's tawheed first. Number 2, the clarity of that we are all equal. It's just an issue of knowledge. We're just conveying a message. There's nothing else. There's no special group that we belong to, that we have powers of some sort. None of that. There are 2 more rules that we're going to recite inshallah ta'ala next week. Subhanallah bihamdihi, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam.